My space nerd, my best space friend. You've heard about the Merchantman, and you want a shallow dive, yes, as chat's calling it, into this legendary ship that seems to keep coming up without ever coming out. Let's start from the beginning. This ship was released like 12-ish, possibly, years ago. Hold on, let me see if I can find the Merchantman sales page. That would probably be on the wiki. So it was first announced as a stretch goal, and then, yeah, here we go. Concept sale. So the concept sale took place November 25th, 2023. It initially came because it was part of the $27 million stretch goal from CIG. I got a shortcut for that. So if we go to their stretch goals, we can actually scroll down and see this for ourselves. 27 million. Banu Merchantmen unlocked. Banu traders are renowned for their merchant prowess, traveling and the space lanes and trading with everyone from humans to Vanduul. Their study, that's actually a really important moment because the first time humans were attacked by Vanduul is because we settled on a planet that the Banu knew the Vanduul would attack. Well, they knew the Vanduul were in the area, and they didn't let us know. It's before we knew the Vanduul, so the Banu are very friendly with people to the point where you can't expect them to let you know somebody's about to stab you. Their sturdy, dedicated trading ships are prized beyond all other transports, sometimes passing from generation to generation of Banu. At $23 million, we dedicated additional resources for making Xi'an spacecraft a unique experience. Oh, that was when they unlocked the Xi'an Scout. It's funny, right after that they unlocked public transportation. I'm sorry, this is a little side piece, but like this one makes me laugh. Need to get from one place to another but don't have a starship? We're building a galactic transportation system. You can travel via transport from system to system in Star Citizen and even ship items. With this stretch goal, we'll expand the system. Starliners, long-range transports, charter ships, and flyable shuttles. We can't wait for that. And you can see this in the starports in the game. They just don't actually let you go places, but this is going to be great. Because essentially with Starkitect and the new mission system, if they were able to get this working, you really wouldn't need a spaceship to play Star Citizen. Anyways, continuing on, they said at $27 million, we will expand that same thinking to the Banu, starting with the merchant ship. The design team will expand Banu technology to offer players a completely different way of experiencing their universe. Remember that. The Banu Merchantman was their way of expanding the Banu, right? This was a big deal. So then we go to the, this. Anniversary livestream, November 26th, 2013. This is where they finally let us see the Banu Merchantman for the first time, and you can tell it looks astonishing. It actually kind of looks a little Vanduul in its first design, and we'll see this design updated as we go through this shallow dive into the ship. What they had to say about it is basically what they said in the announcement, but essentially this was announced 13 years ago as the way for them to expand the Banu. Unfortunately, then they made this first, the Banu Defender. So this landed in 2017.
So the ship is...
And this is still concept art. This wasn't actually in the game. But this was their way of saying, okay, we're going to start small. Like at first, they really didn't understand how much they needed to work their way up to the complex ships. That's why ships like the Starfarer and the Reclaimer feel so off. And so they tried to get back to these smaller ships to work on them first to build the branding of these species and these companies. And they might talk about it here. But this was the first thing that annoyed Banu Merchantman owners. Basically, they got sold this thing, they got told about it, all this stuff, and then the first Banu ship that comes out is definitely not it.
The Defender, and it literally is that. You know, it's not an aggressive ship. I mean, it's a very unique looking ship.
We needed to link up with the writing team in LA, so David
Johnny
and Will,
with the short hair.
What the Banu are about, if there are any specific things that we needed to take in mind when we made the ship.
We knew from the beginning that if they had like a fighting ship, it would probably be an escort ship primarily, because what would they want to do with it? They would want to protect their valuable trading ship.
What we generally do there is we take the requirements from Ben and Chris and we look at ships similar to that role to see kind of where it fits in the universe.
And I think initially there was about 18. And
So I don't know if they're going to say it, but the idea here is that the Banu Defender would like dock with the Merchantman.
Straight away, standard configuration. You know, I really like the landed configuration. It just creates a really nice silhouette, and you know, you'll know straight away that's the Defender. When you see it on a landing pad, there's just no way you'll mistake it.
One of the things that we've been talking about internally was the idea that they, as a culture, they don't have art, fine art, but the idea being that kind of creative energy goes into the manufacturing of the thing. So that's why they, like, all their stuff has really beautiful kind of quality to it.
And also the way they...
You know, you can actually see this architecture in the Banu Wikilo's Emporium. Like, they stuck to this architectural design for the Banu stuff. But anyways, that's enough about the Defender. In 2017, it was not the Banu Merchantman that came out, but the Defender. That didn't stop them, though. They also had a Q&A about the Defender where they talked about the details around it and how it's supposed to work. And I think there is even mention, yes, and a picture of the Banu Merchantman once again showing up saying, we're considering options for storing the Defender in the Merchantman's hold, but we haven't decided one way or another whether the Defender will be able to be carried internally in the Merchantman at this time. Don't know if there's anything else here about it, but it keeps coming up, right? People have questions about the Merchantman. How will its range compare to the Merchantman or other vessels in need of an escort? They say the Defender should never quite be able to match the long-range endurance of a Merchantman, as its size gives it ample room for powerful, efficient jump drive and lots of fuel. A Merchantman that wants to keep its escorts around for the entire trip might need to stop more often for resupply and making fewer jumps. Overall, still, just adding on to the idea of what a Merchantman might be. Putting out pictures with the Merchantman here. You can see this is a slightly different design than what we saw before. By this point, 2016, 2017, they had already changed that design internally without the players fully understanding what that meant. Again, something else that just kind of added on to the laundry list of things that Banu Merchantman owners were dealing with. Now we continue forward, though, and I believe we have a November 26, 2017. They did a full talk about all the different things that are being worked on. They used to do these kind of updates
to another edition of the
where they
brand
showed
new
which ships were where.
We provide the latest news on ships coming to Star Citizen, interviews with the developers, and I stand here in front of a green screen like a weatherman giving you the forecast. I'm your host, Community Content Manager Jared Huckabee. Behind me on said screen is the ship pipeline, an ever-evolving, continuously refined network of phases, stages, and checkpoints necessary before a fun idea becomes a fully fleshed out spaceship. On today's show, we're sitting down with the team members working to bring 2 exciting new additions to the Star Citizen universe. First up, let's check in with some of the team working in our studio.
So this was when the Cyclone got introduced. Yay, go us. But then there was this one. And you can see it's the most replayed part of the episode. People were hyped. Again, this is 9 years ago. Already folks have been waiting 4 years for this ship.
On the... Oh, heck. I don't want to spoil it. Check it out.
The Banu Merchantman is an interesting one for us. It's been around for a long time. People are waiting. People are really hoping for the ship to come out soon.
Also, you'll notice this guy
is an interesting.
Paul Jones, he's popping up every single time this ship comes up. Keep that in mind.
People are really.
He's also really soft-spoken.
Soon, and it's had some concept art done on it. It's had first round, and now that it's sort of going into production, we need more. We need more time. We've done some investigations into corridors. I mean, for me, the sort of corridors are essentially the backbone of a ship. You start with the corridor. From that, you then sort of work your way out. It's kind of like the human body. You just spread out and just. Everything attaches to those corridors.
We have also a new ship, which is a Banu Defender, which is of the same race. So we have to keep in mind that those should go hand in hand. Like we've shown some concept art of the Merchantman with the Defender. And this is a ship that we sold a long time ago. So we have the same issues as some older ships, which is, does it respect the same metrics as we have with the new ships? Does it still make sense, to have those guns, those thrusters, those...
You're hearing one of the worst problems this game suffered with before, say, 2019, 2020, which was that the way they would build the ships before is they would have a concept artist, sometimes not even in the company, just an externally contracted concept artist, and they would tell them the brief of the ship, they'd give them all the stuff, and then they'd have them go make the art. But a concept artist isn't necessarily making the art based around what the game needs. We didn't have physicalized components. We didn't have physicalized cargo. We didn't have NPCs walking on ships. We still don't, but like the considerations for the ships back then led to all kinds of concepts coming out and then needing to be just exploded or changed to fit the actual game. Mercury Star Runner, the Carrack, the Apollo, all of these old ships, you can see it happening, and it'll probably happen with the Merchantman. Yet another thing that adds onto the list of things that Merchantman owners are like, okay, but we already saw how much different this modeling looked, right? Now they've updated it, so it's gonna, you'll see in a little bit how the updated look is. And those folks who spent hundreds of dollars on the Merchantman kind of have to accept those changes without ever getting hands-on with it.
Go, like some other cargo ships, like the Misk hull series, but especially this is a trading and selling ship. It has a negotiation room inside. And if you have some clients, you can trade with them and sell them stuff directly in your ship. So
I swear to God,
you don't have to go through.
I thought he said if you have crayons, you can trade with them. This is a cool part of the ship, though, something that got people excited. This is basically a player-controlled mall that you could fly around in space and have customers at.
A third party, like going to a station, sell your stuff. And the other important stuff as well is that unlike some other ships, you can land with your cargo on it. Like this is about the same size of the Polaris, even bigger, but this is not a ship for combat like the Polaris.
It's kind of like a flying bazaar in terms of market, flying market, isn't it? It's been interesting.
They stick with that idea of it being a bazaar for the whole time, but you can see they put a lot of time. Again, 2017, but they put like a good 10-minute segment into them talking about this ship.
Look like inside,
getting people pumped for it.
This is a new race. We want it to be really different from the humans. We have a lot of floors on the Merchantman. If you are at the bottom of the floor, at the bottom of the ship, you have basically a big hallway. You can enter the ship and get higher. You got an elevator and not much else. After that, you got some shops. You got the negotiation room, but the negotiation room is more for the VIP clients. If you are a VIP, you can get in the negotiation room. If you are a regular client, you can buy stuff in regular shops. And after that, basically, there's one half for the clients.
You don't get access to the nice parts because you're too nice.
That's what the Banu would look like. The Banu race was undergoing some rework at some time. So we had to work with character artists to be sure that which size the Banu were. So for example, if you do human ships, they will all have the same metrics. Like when you make a house, they usually have the same doors. They will be this large, this high. If you make an alien that is way bigger, like the Vandal, obviously you can't make it the same way.
They're hitting their heads.
If you make a ship for the Banu, same thing, it will be a different size. So this is...
So you guys are getting this, and yeah, we miss this man. He came up with the Tonk. For those of you who ever hear the Storm Tank referred to as the Tonk, that's because of this guy. So again, you just can see how much they continue to go back to this ship over and over throughout the years of production and development, and it never really actually makes it into the game. I mean, even as of now, it's still not in the game. Now, there were a few years there where we didn't hear about it at all, and then we saw this. This was big. This was huge. When this happened, this is when people were like, oh, they're gearing up to do this. And I think even around this time, Jared said something along the lines on one of these things of like, this is the lead up to this ship. But there were some complications that we'll get to. Anyways, here is the new design for the Merchantman after 5 years of not really hearing much. This is 2022.
Interior. Let's find out more.
I think when tackling a ship that's got so many unknowns about it, it's a completely new art style, or it's not something that a lot of the team kind of worked on before, we kind of need to make sure that we're approaching it in the most sensible way we can.
By the way, I want to acknowledge something that was said by Kaneda in the chat. If this was released back then, it would have sucked, and that is absolutely true. There's a much larger discussion to have around Star Citizen regarding what they built when, and like the order they could have done these things to avoid a lot of the problems that they're having. But it's generally understood that the earlier your ship is made, the worse it's going to end up being. It's going to have to get reworked at some point anyways. So It's a fight between, do you want to see your ship soon and get to fly it, or do you want your ship to come out later and be the best it can be?
All right, so some old thunder. We are jumping in with our devs. We have got vehicle art director, Mr. Ben Curtis.
Hello. Hello.
And senior vehicle designer, Mark Gibson.
Hello.
And we are going to be showing the very real, very current progress of the Banu Merchantman. Before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about where we are in that process. Ben, we know the Banu Merchantman has been in development for a while, then it's not in development. Set this up for us. Where are we at overall in its development?
The exterior is going through its greybox pass. So it's looking a little bit more advanced than the interior of the ship that we'll see in a bit. We've basically got 2 artists on it, and we kind of chop the ship up into different parts that they can work on. And we're just going through and making sure that everything that needs to fit in the ship is going to fit in the ship.
And it's worth noting that this is a landmark ship for Star Citizen. This is one of the biggest ships of its kind. It's got entirely new purposes with the shops and everything inside. It's pushing an alien race into a new size and scale that we've never done with any of the other ships outside of Squadron 42. There is a lot to this ship. So with that, let's jump on in and start with
the Duckbill Merchantman, dude. This was not a favorite of the community. This was a not great way to start this. I think that the camera lens of the game made it look a little bit worse than it is, also being a work in progress. But this was the first time we got to see the ship in greybox in development. So at this point, for people, it felt like this was at least 12 months, 15 months away at most. And it sounds like that just from the way they're talking about it. But take note on who is missing from this conversation, right? The dev that we saw continuously talking about this ship all the time for all those years is not showing up in this video.
But the exterior.
So we've got the entire front with its hidden weapons that come out from there for the pilot control. It's dual docking collars, one on either side. It's wings with the new animation designs for them, for how they're actually going to deploy. As you can see, there's a lot of detailing on the wing section, a very elaborate and almost elegant design on it, because at the end of the day, this is something they use as a trademark to show how wealthy they are and well they're doing as a trader.
That's a lot of detail, even for greybox phase.
Yeah, it's a new art style. We've done the Defender, obviously, but for the UK team, it's a kind of new art style. And also, the Defender is vastly smaller in terms of its size. There's our normal kind of approach to how we kind of layer in the details has needed a bit of kind of alteration. And we've had to kind of think about how we're going to bring in some of those smaller scale elements to give a better sense of size and scale. Because, when you zoom out from this ship, you still want it to feel huge. And it deserves to feel huge. It is absolutely monstrous.
There's one thing that Morphologist pointed out on the Ironclad was the detailing and the typical normal things that you recognize on the outside of the ship that helps with the scale. That was such an eye-opener for me, and now I'm hoping they do it on ships like this as well. Find ways to do that because it helps.
So huge. And it deserves to feel huge. It is absolutely monstrous. So I think we've had to spend a bit more time working out how we're going to add detail to it. There's still a lot to be done. There's still a lot of the finer details to be added, because that does impact in how we model the ship, how we make the ship. So yeah, it's been a fun challenge for the artist so far.
I understand there was a recent change to the animations.
Yep, I'll have to go get in.
Oh,
they were very quick. Oh, the animation is nowhere near final. It was just to make sure we got it in.
I think it's a fair disclaimer for this. Absolutely no part of what you're seeing today.
Yep.
It's fine.
I remember seeing the play blast in Max, and they were a little bit...
Yeah, that's not near enough animations to stick up to the railing now.
Felt a bit weightier and a bit sleeker than that. But yeah, there is some kind of subtle movement where panels open up and they allow for the kind of like the rest of the wings to slide in. And as with everything we do, we make sure that there's not space magic going on. Things actually kind of fit and function as they should. So yeah,
just artificial gravity.
It gives us a few more challenges, but I think the end result is a much nicer kind of silhouette when you see this thing parked.
Let's move inside. Let's start with the bridge since we're already there.
Okay, so yeah, the interior of the ship, like I say, is the main. Well, you're going to see now, is mainly in kind of white box. The concept mesh gave us like a really good starting point. As always with concept meshes, we had to do a fair amount of kind of optimizations and remodeling to kind of get it to the point where we can get it into engine and kind of start walking around it. The bridge is trying not to say the same thing for every area. It's massive, and you can just any area of the ship you go into, just know that in the back of my head.
This looks kind of like the same thing that the engineers sit in the Alien universe. That like gigantic pilot seat for their weird like a donut with a bite taken out of it spaceships. I don't know what you call them.
Thinking it's
just
huge.
Reminds me of that.
Yeah, we've obviously got the kind of like the 4 control seats. And Mark, do you want to talk through the different functionality stations? Yeah.
So, as ever, the Banu don't have captains. They're a very family communal sort of unit, so it didn't make sense to have a primary captain station for the bridge section. In reality, everything would be relatively even.
All right, we're going to take a look at the rest of the ship here, because there's a lot of it.
Works, because there's no big arm there behind it or anything like that. Once again, it's using alien technology that's keeping it up in place, which is what the plinth is for behind it. And there's an air shield that will be going around the top of here so that when you actually enter the turret, you're not venting the entirety of the room. Obviously,
yeah, the main turret on this ship is like an atrium. It's pretty. It looks a lot like the Odin, actually, turret room.
That does mean that people could try and sneak onto your ship, but while your turret's manned, that might not be the safest thing for them to do.
I love that Xi'an Fight of the Navigator tech.
Moving down from the actual bridge area, we then move into the sanctuary. So the Banu are known for being very multicultural when it comes to their religious beliefs. So they have a entire area dedicated to worship, to fortune, to hoping that things are going to go well for them or that the next trade deal is going to be a good one. So this is
Please don't let them rob me.
end of the Tree of Life, which is how the entire ship's...
This is where we come to do our anti-30K prayers for the rest of our lives. It's just all this room is going to be used for. Save us.
Built around.
Deliver us from
and
evil.
It makes sense for it to be at the end of the tree because it's where everything comes out from. So it was important to keep that feel that it runs through the root of the ship. Going off the side of the sanctuary area, we have the med bay, something that people are very curious about where it actually was. It's just off to the side, just behind the bridge, just near where all of the actual habitation is. You have a primary medical care bed, which will do your day-to-day actual healing, and then you have recovery beds similar to the ones we have on the Carrack. Now, rather than just being a bed, decided to try something a little different. It's now these...
It's a birthing pool.
Of healing gel that you lie in just to recover from any significant operation that you had.
Yeah, I think this was, again, an excuse to kind of just push the ship.
All right, more to the flagship rooms.
Needing shapes that kind of like lead you through the ship, as opposed to what we're so used to on a lot of our human manufactured ships, whereas everything's hard and angled and flat. Really, the only thing in this ship that's flat is the floor.
So the negotiation table has one seat at the top for the actual mediator, which obviously would be a member of the crew, and then even number seats on either side for the delegates to have their discussions. From the actual meeting room, you get a fantastic view of the cargo hold, where all of your goods would actually be stored. As you can see, the amount of cargo that the ship holds is colossal.
Holy crap.
And just the sheer volume of it gives you this cavernous, cathedral-like view of being stuck in the rafters of a warehouse worth of stock.
Yeah, it gives you a real sense of how tall the ship actually is. When we get to the market, you kind of get a glimpse at that, but it's not until you get into somewhere like this that spans the whole, or not even the whole height, you've got the hangar above the height of this, how big the ship actually is.
That's crazy.
Well, we're not going to be able to go through every single
I wonder, I feel like they're
room
not even going to
today.
let you stack your cargo this high. Like, this is like, how many boxes is this? This is 2, 4, 6, 8. So that'd be what, 8 32 SCU boxes? Assuming these are 1 SCU, this is 2 SCU height. Wait, no, they're 4 SCU in height, huh? Are they 4? These actually might be 2 SCU boxes because he's only going up halfway halfway right here. Crazy though. We won't be manually placing that? Dude, you never know. There's supposed to be a crane system in the game, in this ship, but I'm guessing it's going to be either ship or our tractor beams.
Gives you this.
We get to the
I can't tell if these are 1SU. They look like, I can't tell if that's a box or if that's a box.
get to the market.
Oh, these are each boxes because it says metal. So these must be 1SU boxes? I don't know, dude. These sizes look weird.
You kind of get a glimpse at that, but it's not until you get into somewhere like this that spans the
I don't know if these were actually standardized sizes.
whole, or not even the whole height. You've got the hangar above the height of this. How big the ship actually is.
Well, we're not going to be able to go through every single room and nook and cranny today. This is too big a ship. So let's go to the market now and take a look at that.
We've been at it for 15 minutes, but we're not going to cover everything. Yeah, it's
So I
the
think
main room.
this is what a lot of the kind of customers are going to see when they first walk into the ship, is this sort of like reveal of the market area. And what we tried to do in this area is kind of everywhere you walk into it, you're kind of walking through a small tunnel or quite a tight space, so that when you kind of do walk into it, it does then open up and you can see that sort of like that grandeur and that height of the ship. And this is only 2 out of, I think it's 5 or 6 floors at this point of the part of the ship you're in. But I think it's just a nice kind of like reveal of the overall kind of again, just repeating that size and that verticality that we see in the other areas of the ship.
And then this room, this is where it gets freaking
is
crazy,
kind of the area
dude.
we spent a little bit more time on. It's a little bit further along. We've tried to take some areas and push their visuals, so we've got a good understanding of how much work's involved and what the kind of like the final ship is actually going to look like.
It's crazy, dude.
Because it is such a large ship and there's going to be a lot of people.
Like, they have to come up with gameplay for this, It would have been weird for this ship to release with all this stuff and just nothing to do in it. I guess it would have felt a lot like some of the other ships, like the 600, but this would have been too much to release without an idea of how it's going to work.
People ultimately working on it. I think it's good to have that kind of
The problem was they kept teasing
area
it.
that you can kind of refer to as this is what the merchantman's all about. And whilst each area of the ship will have its own feel, will have its own kind of style and in its own forms, I think this is a good indication of the kind of elegance. And if you imagine this is the crew area and the guest area is going to be a level above this, I think it gives you a good idea of what we're aiming for.
The other thing is with the
Great courier driver, yeah. Great for running your daily missions. So, this is the Merchantman. This is the 2022 update. I do not have a Banu Merchantman, no. God bless, no. I will never spend that much money on a spaceship. But this is I would say one of, if not the most anticipated ship in Star Citizen. It's probably in the top 4.
As hot off the press as it comes, there's a lot of areas at the moment.
See what they're saying about it.
only.
And that's pretty much where we're up to with the Banu Merchantman at the moment. This is kind of as hot off the press as it comes. There's a lot of areas of the ship we've not shown yet. We're really happy with the progress we've made so far, but at the moment we are kind of at that point where we've got a skeleton crew just kind of working out everything that we need to get done to deliver the ship. When time permits, we'll be able to ramp that up and bring on more of the team to kind of
God, that looks
get
cool.
through the amount of work
It looks so cool.
involved. Super excited with where it's up to. I think it's going to be one of those that kind of stand out, one of those hallmark ships that kind of defines what Star Citizen is. It shows that there's more to our universe than single-seater fighters and the likes.
They're just still in concept. So, wait, what does Jared say?
What did we learn this week?
Okay. So this is while they were still building the Manchester office. He was literally shooting the show in the construction area. So this is a super important moment in time because at this point, CIG had the concept ship around for now 9 years. They had teased it at least 3 different times with like some pretty major presentations on it. This one specifically brings it in at Greybox. As he mentions, they have a skeleton crew working on it. It genuinely feels like it's probably not too far away at this point. All right, here's a sprint report this would be August of 2022, so just a few months after that.
Here are some follow-up images of the Banu Merchantman from the same time as our Alien Week segment back in June. Mostly to showcase how important having the right FOV on your camera is in avoiding duckbill platypus face.
Told you.
Same ship, Correct FOV.
It was you know how the Star Citizen community is. It was like the main topic for a few days.
Sorry, Ben.
So that's the one update we got after that. And then we jump forward to Star Citizen Live actually the same week. And they say something else about it here.
Updates on for the Corsair and the Banu Merchantman. I'm going to say that you'll see updates on those in the other show that we do or somewhere else maybe in the coming months. Besides everything we've asked, is there anything?
So that sets us up for a Banu Merchantman mention at CitizenCon 2022. However, that didn't happen. He said Corsair and Banu Merchantman updates, but if we go here, you got plenty on the Corsair.
Overwhelming amount of firepower for its size, sort of classification to that entry.
It strikes.
Paul Jones is even still there.
Immediately see the sort of heritage, the DNA that's running through.
So as of CitizenCon 2022, Paul Jones is there, but they're not answering the Merchantman
And so-
news that they just kind of teased everybody with in June, right? And then followed up by telling everybody they'd be able to see more of in a couple of months. So it wasn't an entire year after that until finally in CitizenCon of 2023, we got this presentation. And this is a very important presentation. I'm going to start it off with this segment. That'll tell you a little bit about what happened in between the time that we just looked at here and this CitizenCon. That was the real biggest hit towards the Merchantman coming.
They're both being developed by our Montreal team. Yeah, they're doing great. We're going to look a little bit more in depth at the kind of the art team and how we've grown over the years. You can see from this graph, this is our kind of like live numbers of how many vehicle artists we have dedicated to the project. You can see there's a nice trajectory going up. And you know, with more team members, that also means we get kind of like not just more people to throw at stuff, but we get more experience, we get more knowledge. And that's, you know, that allows us to kind of tackle our larger, kind of more complex ships. You will notice there in 2022, there is a little dip. And you know, unfortunately, when that happens, that has kind of real consequences on what we are able to do as a team. I think, you know, less people, so less power to put on stuff, but also some of that knowledge leaves us. With that leads us to have to make some kind of pretty hard and heavy decisions about what we're working on. And I think most recently and probably most well known is the Banu Merchantman. Yeah. Now, we're going to take a quick look at where we got to with the Merchantman, just to show where we were up to before that happened in 2022.
Yeah. So he's kind of basically saying what you guys are saying in the chat. At this time, the folks who were working on the Merchantman, particularly led by the guy who is at the one who I keep referencing. Where is he? Your boy Paul Jones. This guy. So in 2022, he actually got poached by Ubisoft. And he went to go work on... you know, I probably could find... Let's see real quick. Yeah. So this is a little conversation I actually had with him recently. Where he got poached by Ubisoft in 2022. Ubisoft, as you know, is not going through a good time. And unfortunately, they closed the studio that he was working on. And he got to show at least some of the stuff he had worked on. Dude is an amazing artist, honestly. I think I love Prince of Persia. I would have loved to see what he could have done in that. And it's too bad to see it go. But this was a huge loss for CIG because he carried a lot of that knowledge that he's literally saying we lose knowledge
on what we are able to do as a team. I think, you know, less people noticed there in 2022. There was a little dip.
He says here, they lose the knowledge when that happens, and they did lose the knowledge. The other thing that happened at that same time was a game started to gain some traction that you might have heard of, may even be super excited about, called Star Atlas. This was a game that really wanted Star Citizen's business. Oh my God. To the point where not only did they poach some of the ship team that was working on the merchantmen to go and work on them, they actually hired morphologists to help them out with his understanding of Star Citizen ships, to tell them a little bit more about what they could do in their designs going forward. Now, I don't know how things are going with Star Atlas. This game is pretty controversial because it is quite a bit like Star Citizen, but it also dabbles in crypto. They've got a cryptocurrency that you go in and like, I don't know, half the times people tried to get me to play this game, they were like, you can make money in the game. And I'm like, that's probably not the best reason to play. So I don't know what's going on with this one, but they did take quite a few of the folks working on the Merchantmen, or at least a couple of them at least. And that is what led to this dip here. So that put the Merchantmen on hold, which is why we didn't hear about it at CitizenCon 2022, and we're only just now hearing about it at 2023. And this is what all the fans got to hear when it happened.
Where we got to with the Merchantmen, just to show where we were up to before that happened in 2022.
Star Atlas is not from Ubisoft, no. That was a different thing. That looks pretty good. I do want to say that, like, I'm glad that they didn't continue to try to make it right away like that. I'm glad it seems like they're building the team back up, getting the knowledge back together, making sure people are good enough. Because at this point, this isn't the ship they can mess up. We're like 13 years now. By the time it comes out, it's going to be 14, 15 years since it was first like announced, it's had more hands-on teasers than the freaking Javelin. It's hard not to feel like they can't mess this ship release up. Just don't release it like the Ironclad, please.
So that video shows, where we got up to with the Merchantman. You can see we'd finished white box. We were kind of into grey box. Some areas were further than others. And I think one of the best things about working at a company like Cloud Imperium Games is that we're able to be pretty honest and pretty open with our development. One of the biggest questions we get is,
what happened to 4.8?
What's up with the Merchantman? Where is it? Why did it stop? The Merchantman brought a lot of unique challenges to us. It was a completely new art style, something that's very, very different from what we normally do with our human manufacturers. I think, we could have paused other ships. We could have moved some of our other artists onto the Merchantman. But with the kind of exodus of our kind of senior team in 2022, we didn't just lose people, we lost a lot of the knowledge that went into building out that white box and really kind of delivering that art style. What we decided to do at the time is, rather than try and rush something out and just get something out to get it done, we looked at where we were, and for us, the most important thing was growing our team back up. We wanted to invest in our team and use our seniors and our kind of managers to help get us up to the point where we can tackle multiple large and capital ships at one time. I think the graph previously kind of showed that we've got the head numbers now, and now it's about onboarding our new staff members. It's about skilling them up and getting them to the point. And I would absolutely love to be stood here on a stage and going, yeah, look at the Merchantman, it's amazing, like it's done. But we're not at that point just yet. We do see all the comments, I do see all the notes about it, and I absolutely want to get this ship out and done. I just wanted to be open and honest as to where we are up to with the development.
I agree with the comment in chat. Ben, honestly, my respect for him went up when he was open on SCL about his frustration with the Ironclad. I think that was really important to see, and I appreciate that he let that be said, despite whatever maybe unhappiness there was behind the scenes about it.
At any event, and I really want to get it done, get it out for you guys, but we don't want to give you a half-baked thing. We want to give you a really great product that we can all be proud of, and it's delivered alongside gameplay. So,
that's the big one, the gameplay.
Let's talk about something else quickly.
And then they got onto the other big ships. But really, this was our last major update on the Merchantman. I don't think we've seen anything else about it. Inside Star Citizen, John Cruz stated that when and where are the Banu Merchantman is the top #1 question being asked. That's funny.
So in the top 3 questions that I get, #1 and 2 are when and where are the Banu Merchantman and Endeavor. The third one is...
All right, the Endeavor's another big one we'll talk about someday, but like even in 2024, man.
Where is my Ursa medical version?
Well, so they took care of that. The Endeavor we know isn't coming. So John, the next question is the Merchantman. Where is it? That's all we know about for now, guys. And then when you come back to Alien Week and you see it here for sale, hopefully this video has given you more context as to why people will react to the way they do when they see this, and just tells the story of this ship, the craziness of the Merchantman. I don't think there is a more frustrating development cycle of a ship for folks, and I hope that Merchantman owners can get their win with this whenever it does come out. I'm not going to have one myself, but I'm hoping I get to be like a customer, little... I've come in here to buy all of your finest wares with my monocle. I want your Picos and your 30Ks. Put them in the bag. Let me out. Otherwise, there are other cool ships that don't struggle for 13 years to come out, and I think you should pay attention to those. Either way, hope you learned more about the Merchantman. Thanks for checking out. This was supposed to be a shallow dive, but it got kind of deep. It's like a medium dive. We can call it a mid-level dive. You kind of hit your head on the bottom of the pool. Oops.